I'm going to give a little bit of an overview. I did not know what Yamina was presenting, so I'll get to skip a couple slides because she. no, it's good. We need time. Yeah. So first of all, you've seen a similar map. This is a map of the various dialects in the Amazigh language family, and see the yellow are the supposed dialects, including the East Nussin, which is on the right, like the westernmost side of it. Pretty substantially different in some ways. And then red is the Amazigh, who stuff speaks, and green is Tasha Beat, who are about to So this is, I'm sort of a syntactician at heart, so don't listen to me about phonetics too closely. But this is sort of what we're getting. Zion will have a presentation on this in a bit, but just wanted to talk about some of the things we had trouble with. Obviously, once you go velar, uvular, pharyngeal, glottal, that's anglophone, that's I think personally the biggest thing we had trouble with, and it's not displayed on the chart, but there's consonant length contrast. Gemination is very important in determining different words, and that was hard for us to hear and produce. Probably even harder than the pharyngalized consonants and the labioized consonants, which you'll see here. There's some contrast in some of the consonants. These bluish ones are exclusive to, these three are exclusive to Yamina's dialect. And these are, Yamina and Mustafa has some going on too. So, for vowels, it's a 3-vowel system. This is a chart we threw together a long time ago. We didn't really revisit. Actually, still updated collection, and I fiddled with R for like 2 hours. But you can see like they're aligned along, 3 axes going out. It's surprisingly apparent. There are a lot of allophones. I don't know that we ever established all the environments that cause different allophones, but we got enough of understanding the phonemes that we could kind of displays over that and move on to morphology once we needed to. But it's something we'd like to revisit, obviously. So just a quick overview of the ideas before we're going through with morphology stuff. Basically, it's BSO. It's pretty natural standard to be BSO. But you'll see other orders for all sorts of discoursey stuff I said, topic focus, other reasons. So here I just have an example. Eat chow, dino, fromage, even so eat my mouse cheese yesterday. My mouse ate cheese yesterday. Here for classifying like isolating, fusional, that sort of thing, they use, it's very middle ground. I don't know what my classmates will say about this, but I like what Walls said, which he says, about concatenated formatives, which are kind of like, oh, what does that mean? But it's just saying, it sort of has, it's in the Afro-Asiatic group, like the Semitic languages. There's a lot of stems, especially in verbs and nouns, in indicating aspect and number. There's stem changes that are applied to the roots. There's some patterns that go over them. But beyond those central things, there's a lot of affixation, clitics. There's a lot of things that can block onto the verb pretty well. So this is just an example. Ortlesi chich, and again, we things like this. Ortlesi chich, which is don't give it to him. There's also some interesting things, I think Travis will talk about it, that normally these objects occur after the verb, but the negative particle attracts them to the front. Also something you couldn't possibly know, but the negative of the intensive sort of forms of prohibitive in some cases. So yeah, don't give it to him. And a couple other things, as much as you don't want to say phrases like this descriptively, it's pretty head initial in a sense. Modifiers usually follow what you're modifying. So we have prepositions, things that modify nouns are post-nominal. I call them adjectives because they're pretty nouny too. So I just say that personally. In my head. Then the temporal stuff is quite exclusively aspect. there's some more tensey things that happen once you get all the way up to the level of auxiliary verbs. But the internal stem marking on the verbs is aspect, and then there's a bunch of aspect particles that go along with that. And Justin will be covering that a little more. It's to us, again, Anglophones, it's the person system's pretty familiar. It's singular, plural. There's 2 genders and 3 persons, you know. So we have these are the generic, well, pronouns, the subject pronouns. We elicited these early on, and to be honest, we haven't seen them much at all since. It's very pro-drop. We don't really see the pronouns very often. And then over on the right is the common verb inflections. These are specifically Yamina's variety. There's some changes, but the overall theme for this kind of morphology is pretty similar across the board. Yeah, also I said null copula. That's something I'll talk about a little bit later. It's not necessary to show copulas. You can just put a noun and complement together. Case system, lots of question marks. Literature refers to this 2-part case system that's historically called construct state and free state. We really didn't get to explore it. We can see differences, but it's not something we honestly got to explore, just because of a lot of the changes it has are very similar to phonological rules that happen too. So we really didn't get good enough at distinguishing those until the very end. This is mostly covered in a couple things. There's keeping out. You can see it was actually a little helpful in understanding some of the phonemes. For the green discharge in particular, because it maintains a lot of distinctions that you have to give it some credit. It doesn't do varieties well because a lot of characters that aren't in their standard just get collapsed into one letter. But it helped us because the green are the labialized consonants, the blue are the pharyngalized consonants, red are vowels, and purple are semivowels. So in that sense, seeing this actually kind of made us think, oh, there are pharyngalized and labialized consonants. We're not crazy with something, Then the bottom is the one thing I want to say, the Amazigh flag. I asked Mustafa about it, and the symbol on there is the letter Z, which is, or Yaz, which is in the middle of Amazigh, so it makes sense. I asked if there's any other symbolism to it, and he said that Arabic culture often uses Sad, the letter Sad, Dad, oh Dad, okay, wrong letter, but they often use the letter D, as a symbol of Arabic-speaking regions, so kind of as a counter to that, they use the letter Z, which is a little bit different, so that's just our reaction. And that's all I've got for introduction. Hopefully you've been drastically primed for what's ahead. First, I guess, is Zion. Oh, yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, also, 있으면 자연이 느낀 수준으로 담아세요. 네, 하바 있습니다. I will first talk about what I expected from the practicum and what I got out of it. My aerial interest is Afroasiatic language family, and phonetics and phonology is my module of interest. So when I first came to the practicum, I was really happy that one of my practicum language will be Amazigh. And phonetics and phonology side, my expectation was fulfilled. And what I didn't expect was dialectal variation. Apparently, we didn't know what we were getting into. We didn't know we were going to, learn basically 3 different languages. That was an interesting part, and I guess the most valuable thing that I got out of the practicum is the friendship that I got to build with the instructor, Professor Yamina, and the consultants, Aksanat and Mustafa. And another thing is, I've been telling people a lot about this, but like I have a hard time like looking at the wood first and then go narrower and look at the tree. The way my mind works is looking at the tree first and then looking at the individual tree and then expand it. And I learned a great deal from the group members because from the first week I was amazed of how fast they can analyze the data we elicited, like how fast they can transcribe it, analyze it, and then how fast they can upload the stuff. That was like overwhelming and intimidating at the same time, but that was a lesson for me. So, I hope next time when I get into the fieldwork, I will be able to do phonological analysis along with morphological and syntactic analysis. So that's most of the business. My goal here is to show you a brief phonetic and phonological sketch of the language. I will briefly go over the phonemic inventory of the language and also briefly go over dialectal variation, especially in terms of spirantization. And I will demonstrate some binaural pairs, including some interesting sound of the language, like pharyngalized consonants, labialized consonants, and geminate. And my passion is vowelist words in Tamashik. So that will be my last part. Okay. Just look at the phonemic chart of the consonants and look at how robust it is with all the geminate counterparts and with all the pharyngalized consonants. And we have some labialized consonants too. And look at how large the vowel system is. So this green part belongs to Yamina's variety. We suspect that these palatal fricatives also belong to Mustafa's variety as phonemic consonant. So as you go from Abzama's variety, which is Tashohit, to Mustafa's variety, which is Tamazigh, and to Yamina's variety, which is Ait, is Nasen, you will see the spirantization is more robust toward the north as you go up. So Ata will be realized as Ata, and Ada will be realized as Ada, and Aka will be realized as Asha in Mustafa's variety sometimes, or Asha in Yamina's variety, and Aga will be realized as either Aya or Aisha. Yes, this one. So Aga will be realized as Aya, or it could also realize as Aya. So I can play the sound so that you can hear it.
So is the box there, the audio box? Oh, it's one of, oh,
Emshli.
Amshli.
Okay, that's one example.
Tehirza. Tehirza.
Sahirza.
Interesting, right?
Tagatnik. Tagatnish.
Zratnich.
Agdid. Ajdid.
Ajdid.
This is only phonetic level, but when you go to lexical level, the variation is like greater. So I think Justin will, or not. Okay. I prepared some minimal pairs for some sounds that do not occur in English. Let me see. Let me play this one first.
Uzuf. Uzuf.
With this example, you can hear the difference in vowel quality. And in Amazigh, the pharyngalization spread throughout the word, so that's why the vowel quality also changes. And if you do the phonetic analysis, you can see the difference here quite clearly. At the CV boundary, the value of F1 goes up all the time. You can slowly compare it. And the value of F2 goes down. And I know those might just look like numbers, but F1 is inversely related to vowel height, and F2 is related to vowel vagueness. So which means, like for uduf and odov here, you see the value of F1 goes up, which means the vowel height goes down. And if you compare U and O, the articulation of O is occurring in the lower region of the mouth, so it's related. So that's just a cue they might use in producing the pharyngalization sounds. So that's that. And I know Carlos was curious about labialized consonants, so I wanted to make sure that I include them. So I'll play the sounds.
Ked. Kur. Eg. Ug.
Okay, the next one.
Inna. Inwa.
I don't, let me play this.
Ked. Kur.
I don't know whether you hear the difference, but when I hear them,
Eg. Ug.
I hear with the labialization, the articulation of the vowel goes back. And if you do phonetic analysis, you see both the value of F1 and F2 goes down. And especially the value of F2 goes down dramatically. And like I mentioned, the F2 is related to vowel vagueness. So the fact that it goes down, the value of F2 goes down, indicate that the vowel is articulated further back of the mouth. So there's a thing called velar pinch. And what it is, around velar consonant, the F2 and F3 of the surrounding vowel get pinched. So with this velar, so this is K part, this is the vowel part. And you see like they kind of come closer, but with the labialization, it goes down. So you can see that. And this is clearer. Like you see it got pinched with the velar sound, but with the labialization, the value of F2 really goes down. So that's one of the cues. That's interesting. So like Yamina mentioned, and I think Taylor mentioned too, in the beginning, like detecting the Gemini sound was really a challenge for us, like because our ears weren't trained to hear them. We got better, but it's still a struggle for me. let me see. I will play the sounds first so that you can have the idea.
Elf. Elf.
One thing to keep in mind, this was produced in a careful speech, not in a casual speech. So you can hear the difference, kind of.
Yufes. Yufes. Feathers. Feathers. Izmir. Izmir.
Can you hear the difference? But imagine hearing it in a casual speech without comparison. Like it's almost impossible to notice that Geminic sounds are there. And I looked up some literature, and in literature there are two different views about the vowel length of the preceding vowel. If there's a Geminic consonant following a vowel, there might be, and in many cases there are syllable break between the consonants, which means you get a closed syllable, which means you get more crowded temporarily, so vowel length in some occasions gets shortened. So some scholars argue that the vowel length shortening is one cue of gemination, but at least in Yamina's variety there was no difference. Like with the preceding vowel and following vowel, but the length difference of the consonant was really great. If you look at it, it's almost 3 times, but then it is produced, they were produced in a careful speech. And when we did the acoustic analysis with casual speech, the consonant length difference wasn't that great. So for singleton, it was about 170 milliseconds. For Gemini, it was about 200 milliseconds. So there's like 30 to 50 millisecond difference. So it's amazing how they can understand each other. With the 50 millisecond difference. But Carlos mentioned as long as it's categorical, it can be the major cue. And this part of the phonology phonetics is the most exciting part for me. Tashalit is the variety that belongs to Apsamat. So usually vowels are the segments that form the syllable peak. And it's not uncommon, like in English, for sonorant and consonant sound to form syllable peak. So like rhythm or button, like you see like M can form syllable peak and N can form syllable peak. So, so vowels are the strongest candidate for syllable peak, and then sonorant, and then obstruent. And it is argued, I guess, that there are only 2 languages in the world in which obstruent sound can form syllable peak. And of course, one of them is Tashalit, which is exciting because we got to really hear it. So this paper by Ridwan, 2008, is the paper that people frequently refer to when they study intrusive vowel, epenthetic vowel. And his claim is that even at the phonetic level, there is no vocalic element, like none whatsoever, even in the words that consist of only consonants. So like, for example, I can't even pronounce it, but for if you do the phonetic analysis, his claim is that there's no vocalic element, like nothing. So I tried to elicit the sound, and I'll let you hear them. Oh, by the way, his claim, when I did the phonetic analysis from Apsamat's words, part of it was true, but part of it wasn't, but it was still very interesting. So, and one thing about syllabification here, I heavily relied on Ridwan's data, and it was really hard to extract the syllabification from Apsamat's. what I used was clapping. So I was like, oh, okay, 앞서만, is it 찌르버릇 or 찌르버릇? And it wasn't that intuitive, and like he gave me the answers that I wanted to hear, but I was kind of forcing it to like manipulating him. So like my next job is to come up with some natural way of extracting syllabification, you know, without like forcing my opinion on the consultant. So, but anyway, assuming these are correct, and I'm certain they're correct. Okay, so listen to the first syllable.
صبغت.
Z, and S is the syllable peak, which is obstruent, which is wild.
صغرت.
Another word.
شتت.
So that's the first syllable.
كست.
Okay, this one is my favorite.
تفتخت.
You may want to try to imitate the sound. It's impossible for me.
تفتخت. تخطف.
So, okay, so with the first syllables, yes, the obstruents can form syllable P. But with the second syllable, in Ridwan's data, the inserted schwa didn't occur at all. But with Absama's idiolect, I guess, his own variety, we can see the vocalic element. So I'll play the sound again.
كست. كست.
So the first syllable, in the first syllable, it's an obstruent that forms a syllable peak. But with the second syllable, like when you see it, like high amplitude and formal structure and voice bar and periodic wave, they are the indication of vocalic element. But the duration of it is like 40 milliseconds, which isn't that long. But still, he has one. And it's not, it wasn't like in some words, schwa was all missing. But in all the words that we elicited, with the second syllable, there was schwa vowel insertion, so which was different than what Ridwan argued for. This is, yeah, this one is my favorite.
تفتخت.
Okay. So this is from Ridwan. So you don't see any vocalic elements. Like this just, you know, high amplitude. But here you can see periodic wave. And if you see the spectrogram, you see the formal structure and voice bar. So with Absama's variety, there is a vocalic element. However, still like count the number of consonants. It's like 7, 8 in one word with little bit of vocalic elements, which is really wild. So this is the table from Ridwan's paper, the same paper that I was talking about. So he, including him, he used 6 subjects from Tashil-Hague variety, and he elicited more than 860 utterances. And he claims that 88% of the utterances didn't have any vocalic element. But considering that Absama had vocalic element in every word from his paper, that would be my next job, to have more Tashil-Hague speakers and see what's going on. Like, it might be just his idiolect as a one speaker, but I want to see what's going on as a dialect, as a group of speakers. So that would be something interesting for me. So I know I used many minutes, but I'll briefly mention. Okay, so when the vowel is inserted at the phonetic level, some people distinguish between epenthetic vowel and intrusive vowel. And epenthetic vowel, basically what it is, if vowel is inserted to repair illegal structures of the language, that's epenthetic. And that's regular, and that creates new syllable. But for intrusive vowel, it's just random. It's just there, and it's not necessarily to repair the illicit structure. And it cannot create new syllable. So I would like to see what's going on within the Tashohit version of Amazigh and see whether this distinction is legitimate or it's just something that people argue for in order to take sides, if it makes sense. Or I want to see whether I can come up with some smart idea to say, oh, like this distinction is just, I guess, matter of interpretation. So anyway, that's all that I have. Thank you.
Everyone can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay.